With Russia's war in Ukraine stalled and the U.S. saying morale is a problem for Russian forces, CNN has learned of a rare meeting in Moscow between U.S. and Russian military officials, which, according to a U.S. readout of the meeting, contained a, quote, revealing moment from Russian Major General Yevgeny Ilyin, a general with extensive experience dealing with Americans. As the meeting ended, the readout says an attaché on the U.S. side casually asked about Ilyin's family roots in Ukraine. According to the readout, the U.S. official said the general's stoic demeanor suddenly became flushed and agitated. Ilyin replied he was born in Ukraine and went to school in Donetsk, and then said, according to the readout, the situation in Ukraine is tragic and I am very depressed over it, before walking out without shaking hands. The attaché wrote in the readout, the fire in his eyes and flustered demeanor left a chill down the spine. Meetings with Russian officials are typically scripted, but the two attachés said they had never witnessed such an outburst by Russian counterparts at an official meeting. The readout by the officials concludes, at the very least, it is clear that morale problems among Russian forces are not limited to frontline troops. The readout describes only the impressions of the U.S. officials and does not definitively explain Ilyin's behavior. Such readouts are typically too sensitive to be made public.
Readouts of this type are important because they give us an insight, a potential insight into what the Russians are really thinking, but it also shows that there is some kind of a morale problem within the Russian hierarchy, and it extends possibly all the way up to the top.
The Russian Ministry of Defense did not respond to a CNN request for comment on the meeting or the readout, but the Kremlin has denied reports of low morale among its forces in Ukraine.
You would probably have to doubt this information. You have to doubt it, and you have to think twice whether it is true or not.
As Russia faces stiff resistance from Ukrainian forces, if the Americans are correct and morale is an issue, it's a challenge the Russians can ill afford.
We've seen increasing indications that morale and unit cohesion is a problem. And yes, that absolutely translates into potential military effectiveness issues.
A Russian general flushed and agitated, according to the Americans. Just one more mystery about what really may be going on behind Kremlin walls. Barbara Starr, CNN, The Pentagon.
Interesting. Nina Dos Santos joins me from London with more on the morale and also on some high-level departures from the Russian circles of power.
Yes, that's right. There have been some high-level departures. Obviously, there was Anatoly Chubais, who left yesterday, even left the country. He was responsible for an environmental brief, but there's also been some question marks over the future of many members of the military as well, with reports that one of them might be under house arrest. There's lots of speculation about the whereabouts of Sergei Shoigu, who's the defense secretary of Russia, who hasn't been seen in about 12 days now, as, of course, this rising number of casualties appears to grow by the day for Russia. And just going into the numbers here, NATO has been saying that they estimate about 40,000 Russian troops are either dead, wounded or missing in action or have been captured in Ukraine. Ukraine itself estimates that the casualties among Russian soldiers could be as high as over 15,000. And Russia itself, just interestingly enough, Hala, last week, I'm sure you remember, accidentally may have revealed casualty numbers themselves when one of the state news companies accidentally put out a report saying that the Defense Ministry confirms that there are almost 10,000 Russian soldiers who have lost their lives. That was quickly retracted. So far, the official estimate hasn't really been updated for a couple of weeks from Russia, when it said that there were hundreds of soldiers who had lost their lives in what it calls continues to call a special military operation in Ukraine that the rest of the world calls an invasion. And what's also important when it comes to morale is the command structure of the Russian military, which is known for being notoriously hierarchical. What that many defense analysts have said means is that it brings more senior generals to the front of the action in combat zones like Ukraine, and that is where we've also seen a number of losses. About several Russian generals have lost their lives so far in Ukraine, and then scores of other colonels and other officers as well. So all of this contributing to question marks over morale. There's been reports about Russian soldiers suffering from frostbite because their military kit isn't as good as the Ukrainian defending soldiers' military kit. Many of them reportedly hungry when they've been captured by Ukrainian soldiers. And then, of course, as I said, the big question mark is the fate of the defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, who hasn't been seen in, as I was saying before, about 12 days, now 13. Hala?
Right, since March 11th. So, yeah, that's a mystery. Nina Dos Santos, thanks so much.